We thought it was just another summer night, just a bonfire in the woods, just 5 kids and a dirt trail that led too far from home. We weren't supposed to be out there, but that's the thing about summer. Rules bend. No one expected anything to go wrong. No one ever does. The sun had gone down around 8:43 p.m. I remember that detail because we took a photo as it disappeared behind the tree line. There were smudges of pink across the sky, and the trees looked almost painted on, still, sharp, black. It was beautiful in the kind of way that makes you forget where you are. But it didn't last. We reached the clearing just before 9:30, an old campsite someone's cousin found on a hiking forum. No trail markers, no signal, just a cold ring of stones, a rusted-out fire pit, and the distant sound of frogs in a swamp we never found. We lit a fire, passed around the speaker, told the kind of stories that were meant to make someone scream but never really did. At 10:17, Kat swore she saw someone behind the tree line. She was laughing when she said it, but she stopped smiling after a few seconds. She looked too long, said it was probably just deer, but none of us saw anything move.
And after that, things felt off.
It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was in the small things. The air felt heavier. The fire started burning sideways, even though the leaves weren't moving. Noah said it was just uneven wood, but we noticed something else. The woods got quiet. Not silent, quiet. Like the forest was holding its breath. We laughed about it, made jokes, but no one said it out loud, the feeling that something was watching us. Right there in the dark, just out of reach. At 11:06, Jordan's dog, Finn, started whining. He backed away from the edge of the clearing and refused to come any closer. He just sat down facing the trees, ears up, staring, unblinking. That's when Noah's flashlight died, just blinked twice and went black. And when it came back on, Kat was gone. At first we thought she wandered off, maybe to scare us, maybe to find a place to pee. We called her name, we walked the perimeter with our phones raised, but there was no answer, no footsteps, no sound. Then we heard it. One single slow whistle, not from close, not from far, but from somewhere ahead of us, and every hair on my body stood up. We should have left. We should have run. But we waited. And that was the mistake. We spent the next 3 hours searching. The fire burned down to its last red breath. We made circles in the dirt with our footprints, called Kat until our throats hurt. But she didn't scream. She didn't call back. It was like she just slipped out of the world. At 4:09 a.m., we finally gave up and started walking back. The trail was still there, but it looked different, colder, like it had been waiting. The police didn't believe half of what we said. They told us it was stress, exhaustion, that she'd probably wandered off and gotten lost, that there was no evidence of foul play. But when the photos came back from that night, there was one we didn't remember taking. It was blurry. Someone standing just past the firelight. Too tall, too still, no eyes. And when we zoomed in, we realized something terrifying. Kat was standing on the opposite side of the fire in that photo, looking straight at the figure, just moments before she vanished. But none of us ever saw her standing there. Not once. Not with our own eyes. This story isn't mine. It happened to my friend's older brother, but the recording he sent me, what he captured that night, it's never been heard publicly. Until now. The summer I turned 17, my parents sent me to stay with my aunt in Oregon. She lived in a quiet town about 2 hours from the coast, the kind of place that doesn't show up on maps unless you're already lost. The sign that greeted you at the entrance read, "Welcome to Gracetown Pop, 1216. But someone had scratched out the last number. It just said 1021. Nobody ever fixed it. The roads there weren't paved all the way. They started smooth, then turned into gravel, then into something else entirely. You drove slow or you didn't drive at all. Gracetown was fog in the morning and silence at night. The houses had chipped paint, the mailboxes leaned, and no 2 streetlights worked at the same time. But people there weren't unfriendly, just watchful. Like they were waiting for something that never showed up. I stayed in the guest room. It smelled like cedar and mothballs. The window looked out over the forest, dense, dark, endless. Even in July, the pine trees made the backyard feel like twilight. Noah lived just down the road, my cousin, a year older than me, louder, braver, always looking for a way to break the rules. He'd grown up there, said he knew every inch of the forest. every back road, every shortcut. And that summer, he was always talking about making it count before he left for college. We spent the first week killing time, skipping stones at the lake, eating gas station sandwiches, driving past farms that looked half abandoned. At night, Noah would meet up with his friends, Emily, quiet, smart, sharp-eyed. Jordan the clown, always recording on his camcorder like life was some kind of horror film. And Kat, wild, sarcastic, fearless to a fault. They didn't treat me like an outsider, but they didn't treat the forest like a playground either. There were boundaries, things you didn't do, places you didn't go. And one rule they kept repeating like a joke they didn't quite want to laugh at. The pines have rules, and after sundown, don't whistle. I asked them where that came from. No one gave a straight answer. Emily shrugged it off. Jordan grinned and said, "Wanna test it?" Kat rolled her eyes and said it was just a local thing to scare campers. But Noah didn't say anything. He just looked at the trees and said he didn't remember who told him the rule, only that everyone seemed to know it by the time they were 10. One night, after dinner, I was looking for an extra blanket in the closet of the guest room. There was a box there, old, heavy, covered in dust and stickers from the early 2000s. Inside, a stack of yellowed local newspapers. I flipped through them without much interest, until one headline made my skin tighten. 3 teens missing in Pine Ridge, June 2003. No pictures, just their names, their ages, 17, 16, 16. It said they were last seen near an old fire lookout tower, the kind that had been shut down decades ago after a small wildfire. The article said the blaze was never officially explained. Locals
Blamed lightning. Others didn't say anything at all.
At the bottom of the article, there was a single line that stuck with me. All radios in the area went silent at 2:14 a.m. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was scared, not yet, but because I knew the next time Noah invited me out we'd be going somewhere deep, somewhere past the trail signs, somewhere the maps stopped caring about. And whatever happened next, whatever we woke up in those woods, it started long before we got there, years before, maybe longer. They say boredom leads to bad decisions. That night was proof. It was a Thursday. The heat had finally broken. You could feel the forest breathe. Still warm, but the air had a weight to it, like something was watching how long we'd last. Noah had the idea, he always did. He said we should go out to the tower. I didn't know what he meant, but the others did, and no one looked surprised. Emily didn't speak at first. Jordan grinned. Kat said, "You're not serious," and Noah just shrugged. "Why not?" he said. "It's our last summer. Might as well cross it off." The tower, a rusted-out fire lookout that hadn't been in use since the early 2000s, abandoned after a blaze no one could explain. No lightning, no hikers, just burned. 5 acres gone in minutes. The official story blamed heat lightning. Locals didn't. They just said it started, and no one remembers how. The forest grew back, but people stayed away. Emily dared someone to stay overnight, said it like a joke, but her voice was too flat to be funny. "First one to leave the clearing buys pizza," she added. Kat rolled her eyes. "This town is full of stories," she muttered. "None of them are real." She picked up her bag anyway. We packed up snacks, flashlights, hoodies. No one said it, but everyone moved fast. Like if we stopped, we might change our minds. The trail started just past the edge of town, an overgrown path behind the old mill, ferns higher than our waists, gnats in the air. The ground turned soft under our feet. I kept telling myself it was just a walk, just trees and dirt and memories I didn't have yet. But then I saw her. She stood at the edge of the trail under a crooked birch tree, bent-backed, barefoot, skin like paper. A woman selling dream catchers from a crooked stick she carried over her shoulder. Strings of feathers, bones, and rusted bottle caps swayed in the breeze like wind chimes made of old promises. Noah nodded at her, didn't say a word, like he'd seen her before, like everyone had. She didn't speak to him, didn't speak to the others, just watched them pass. But when I came by, she reached out gently and touched my wrist. Her hand was cold, not cool, cold. She leaned close, her voice like someone remembering how to use it. "If you hear the whistling," she said, "don't answer." That was it. She didn't explain, didn't ask for money, just let me go. I wanted to laugh, to shake it off, but when I turned around, she was already gone. No footsteps, no sound, no sign she'd ever been there. I didn't say anything to the others, and maybe I should have. Maybe it would have changed something, but I didn't, because deep down, part of me didn't want to be the one who ruined the night. Even if the night was already ruined, even if something had already started. We kept walking. Deeper. Farther than I thought the trail would go. By the time we reached the clearing, the sun was gone. The sky was dark. And the tower was waiting, old, silent, watching. Just like it always had.
By the time we reached the tower, night had already taken the forest. Not dusk, not the golden hour. Full darkness. The only light we had was what we carried. 2 flashlights, a cheap lantern, and someone's phone screen. And even those didn't feel like enough. The tower was barely standing, wood splintered from years of sun and rot. The stairs creaked under our weight as we climbed, each step groaning like it didn't want us there. The lookout itself was no bigger than a garden shed. Windows on all sides, half of them cracked, the others smeared with dust and moss. Graffiti on the walls, some of it just initials and dates, others less clear, symbols, scratches. One corner of the ceiling was stained black. From water damage, we hoped. Jordan lit the lantern and held it up. The glow caught something on the far wall. Letters, etched deep. Not spray paint, not ink. Scraped in with something sharp. "If the wind goes silent, get out." No one laughed, not even Jordan. We read it twice, maybe 3 times, then moved on without talking about it. In the corner of the room was a broken radio. Heavy, dusty, the kind with knobs and a thick rubber antenna. Noah tried to turn it on. Nothing. Dead. But there were pages nearby, torn sheets from what looked like a forest ranger's logbook. Most were unreadable, water-blurred, but one entry still showed faint pencil lines. 1:48 a.m., 3rd night in a row. She's humming again, I'm not imagining it. That's when Kat said she didn't want to sleep inside the tower. She'd rather take her chances outside, near the fire. The rest of us stayed in. We told ourselves it was just an old story, just a ruined tower, just a creepy logbook. The kind of thing that's only scary when the wind hits it the right way. But around midnight, the wind stopped, not slowed, stopped. We were sitting in a circle, talking low, sharing chips and sips of warm soda, and then the trees, which had been swaying softly all night, just froze. No rustling, no creaking, just dead, unmoving silence. We all noticed, at once, but no one said anything. And then we heard the humming. It was faint, too far to be clear, but it was there. A melody with no words, a voice too soft to belong to any of us, just outside the tower, moving slowly around it. Emily asked, "Is that Kat?" But Kat was at the fire. We could see her. Still. Back, turned, not moving. And when Jordan called her name, she didn't respond. He got up, went down the stairs, but the moment his feet hit the ground, his flashlight died. He smacked it. Nothing. Emily's phone light flickered, then went black. Only the lantern stayed on, and even it began to dim. The flame inside flickered, like it couldn't decide whether to stay or vanish. And that's when I felt it. A rush of air, cold and wrong, sweeping across the room, but not from the windows, from inside. It passed through us, not around, through, like walking into a space that shouldn't exist. Jordan came back up, out of breath, face pale. He didn't speak right away. Then in a whisper, he said, "There's someone behind Kat." We rushed to the window, but the fire outside had dimmed. The light only reached a few feet around her. And beyond that, nothing. Just trees. Still. Close. Too close. I squinted, looked harder. And then I saw it. Between the trees, not walking, not standing, waiting, tall, pale, not shaped right, not shaped human, but pretending to be. And then it moved, just slightly. Enough to let us know it knew we were watching. I didn't say anything, because I didn't know how. I just kept staring into the place where eyes should have been, into the shape that shouldn't have been there. Kat turned slowly, like she'd heard something. And then, the humming stopped. We tried to sleep. We told ourselves the fire would last until morning, that it was just shadows, just stories, that we were imagining the shape in the woods. But sleep didn't come easy. Not for me. The others laid out their sleeping bags and curled up against their backpacks. Noah snored softly. Emily turned to face the wall. Jordan mumbled something in his sleep about the batteries dying, but I couldn't shut my eyes, not after what I'd seen. That thing, standing just past the firelight, not moving, not blinking. I told myself it was just my imagination, that the trees could play tricks on you after midnight, that maybe it was just the way the smoke curled in the dark. But my body knew better. My heartbeat hadn't slowed down since we saw it. My palms were still cold, and I kept watching the window, waiting for something to look back. Then, at 2:07 a.m., I remember the time exactly, I heard it. A whistle, software drawn out, far away. It came from the forest, too low to be a bird, too steady to be wind. It started once, then again, each time a little closer. I sat up, looked around. Noah was still asleep, curled into his hoodie. Jordan had pulled his beanie down over his eyes. I whispered Noah's name. He stirred, sat up, blinking. "You hear that?" I asked. He listened. Another whistle, closer now, almost playful. He rubbed his eyes and muttered, "Probably Jordan messing with us." But Jordan didn't move. He was completely still, breathing deep. Emily sat up next. Her hair was in her face. She looked confused, then afraid. That's when the first stone hit the wall. A sharp crack, wood splintering near the window. We all froze. Then another, louder. This time it hit the side of the tower near the stairs. Jordan sat bolt upright. "What the hell was that?" No one answered, because none of us knew. We turned off the lantern, sat in darkness, breathing quiet, listening. No footsteps, no voices, just silence. And then the whistle again, this time right outside the door. Kat, who had been on watch near the fire, burst through the cabin door without knocking. She was pale, shaking, eyes wide. "There's someone out there," she said. "Barefoot, just standing." She didn't sound like Kat. Her voice was tight, controlled, like someone trying not to cry. Noah rushed to the corner and pulled out the emergency supply crate. It was packed years ago, half the stuff expired, but inside was a flare gun and 2 road flares. Kat grabbed one, lit it without waiting. The flare hissed and spat red light, flooding the room with a glow that made every shadow look like it had a heartbeat. She stepped to the window, held the flare high, the smoke coiled toward the ceiling. And in the haze, just outside the tower, we saw her, a figure, female, tall, hair long and wet-looking, barefoot, standing in the middle of the clearing, arms at her sides, her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something we couldn't hear. And she was smiling, too wide, like her face didn't know how to stop. Her eyes were black, not dark, black, empty. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared, through the flare, through the window, straight at us. Then the flare fizzled out, instantly, like it had been pinched shut. And when the light came back, when we scrambled to turn on the lantern, she was gone. Not running, not hiding. Gone. The fire outside had gone out too. No smoke, no embers, just a black ring in the dirt. Jordan backed away from the window, said we should go. Now he was already packing up, but Emily stopped him. She looked different. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. "We stay," she said. "If we leave now, we'll be running all night. She'll follow us." Jordan said that was insane, that we had legs, that we could outpace whatever that thing was. But Emily shook her head. "She's faster in the dark." Nobody argued after that, because the truth is, we all believed her. No one wanted to say it out loud, but something had changed. We weren't in control anymore. We weren't just telling stories. We were in one, and all we could do was wait. Wait for dawn, or something else, narrate a voice, softly. Would you have stayed? Sat in that tower and waited for daylight to come through the trees? Or would you have run into the woods, into the dark, away from something you couldn't explain because we chose to stay? And I still don't know if that was the right choice.